Pro-Russia separatists shoot down 2 more planes near the wreckage of Flight 17. Vladimir Putin blames the West as President Obama fundraises out west. This is Special Report. Welcome to the State House in Concord, New Hampshire, where a U.S. Senate race in this state could tip the balance of power in Washington. Good evening, I'm Brett Baer. We'll get to that later in the show, but we begin overseas. It's been less than a week since Russia, supporting rebels in eastern Ukraine, shot down the passenger jet with nearly 300 passengers aboard. Today, just 20 miles from the crash site, they've taken down a pair of fighter jets. Investigators continue to work on the badly compromised site for more clues. And all of this as the remains of victims are beginning to return home. We have Fox team coverage tonight. Ed Henry looks at the president nearly 6 years in, whose leadership credentials are under attack. But we begin with correspondent Steve Harrigan, who's in Donetsk again tonight with the very latest. Hi, Steve.
Brett, the rebels have shown once again just how dangerous the skies are over eastern Ukraine. Less than 20 miles from the wreckage, Russian-backed rebels shot down 2 more aircraft today, both Ukrainian fighter jets. One pilot was killed, the other ejected, his fate unknown. The rebels have shot down as many as a dozen Ukrainian military jets and helicopters since fighting began in April. The Pentagon refused to confirm reports that Ukraine had previously asked for help in jamming Russian-made anti-aircraft systems in the hands of the rebels. In the wake of this month's civilian and military aircraft losses, however, Ukrainian officials are expected to press their case in Washington for help with electronic warfare. The fighting occurred as the first bodies from Malaysia Airlines Flight 17 finally made it out of Ukraine. The first 40 bodies in simple wooden coffins were met by honor guards at a military air base in the Netherlands, then taken away in individual hearses before a silent crowd of mourners, still unsure if their loved ones had come home.
You see it on everybody, on the faces from everybody. You see it. They want the children back. That's important for the family and the friends, of course, yeah, for everyone.
It will take 3 days to fly the recovered bodies back from eastern Ukraine. Identification could take anywhere from days to weeks, depending on DNA, dental, and hair analysis. Forensic specialists will then determine how many, up to 98 victims, still remain at the crash site. Even reaching the site has proven impossible for many international experts due to security concerns. Brett?
Steve Harrigan live early Wednesday morning, in Ukraine. Steve, thank you. Our new Fox News poll shows nearly 6 out of 10 voters say the administration has not been competent and effective at running the government. As Chief White House correspondent Ed Henry reports, the president's also taken heat lately for how he's managed to continue fundraising for Democrats amid major foreign policy challenges.
As the trouble in Ukraine deepened, there were no interruptions to President Obama's schedule as he continued day 2 of a 3-day West Coast fundraising swing. And Republicans stepped up their attacks, claiming he's not paying enough attention to a range of crises, from dealing with Russian President Vladimir Putin to the escalating violence in Gaza.
The president should be in charge, and he should be in charge in substance and in appearance. And flying around to fundraisers does not look like a man whose total concentration is on this.
White House officials publicly say the president is always in contact with his national security team and key world leaders, and privately say he'd look panicky by adjusting his schedule to every crisis. A harder case to make, though, when even senior Democrats like Senator Dianne Feinstein are now raising questions about his focus.
I'm not going to tell the president what to do, but I think the world would very much respect his increased attention on this matter. And I think there ought to be increased attention.
While House Democratic Whip Steny Hoyer, when asked about the midterm elections today, told reporters, quote, "The fact that the president's popularity is not as high as we would like it is a factor." That struggle is apparent in a new Fox poll, which shows disapproval of the president's handling of foreign policy has hit 56%, though approval has inched up to 36% from a record low last month of 32%. As for the president's sparring with Putin, the new poll finds 75% of Americans believe the Russian president has the upper hand in Ukraine, while 14% believe Mr. Obama does.
For a president who doesn't like photo ops, the photo ops of him fundraising when we have Israel in crisis, when we have kids coming across our border, when Russia's shooting down a plane that has an American as a casualty, it's unacceptable.
Democrats say it's the president's critics whose priorities are off.
They even went after Obama the other day, the Republicans did, for eating a hamburger. I mean, you can't attack him for everything and have any credibility.
Though the president went down that road himself last night at a fundraiser in Seattle, when he charged that the far right of the Republican Party has, quote, gone off the rails. Though the president added to the crowd, quote, I will say for all the Democrats around here, I'm not overly partisan.
Now, at that fundraiser, the president also took a shot at the media, saying he doesn't watch the news because, quote, whatever they're reporting on, I usually know, which raised some Republican eyebrows, given how many times the president has said he learned about various controversies from the news. Brett?
Ed Henry live on the North Lawn. Ed, thank you. In the Middle East, the death toll mounts in this, the 16th day of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Israel is balancing an expanded offensive and restraint in dealing with Hamas militants, nonstop launching of rockets. This as international efforts to negotiate a ceasefire appear to have stalled. Correspondent Connor Powell is in Gaza City.
Israel today released video of an airstrike on the Al-Wafa Rehabilitation Hospital in Gaza, a site they say Hamas used to store rockets, as well as a military and command center. After warning doctors who removed the patients, Israeli jets destroyed the building. Proof, Israel says, of the lengths it goes to protect civilians and of Hamas's disregard for them. This comes one day after Hamas rockets were found for a second time at a United Nations school in Gaza. Still, this afternoon, the United Nations Human Rights Commission, while condemning Hamas, also launched an investigation into Israel's conduct during the war, saying it had not done enough to protect civilians. This airstrike on a mosque and Islamic cultural center that killed one man who was walking on the street and injured dozens is the type of incident investigators are looking into.
Even the most precise of Israeli airstrikes is felt by everything around it. The target was clearly this building, but the damage, well, it's everywhere.
As the death toll mounts on both sides, Secretary of State John Kerry arrived in Israel in hopes of brokering a ceasefire. Kerry said that while some progress has been made towards a truce, a lot of work remains.
In the last days, we have been talking about how to achieve an end to the current violence and an effort to try to not only have a ceasefire, but build a process that can create a sustainable way forward for everybody.
Both sides have specific demands for a ceasefire. Hamas wants Israel to lift the 8-year blockade against Gaza, while Israel wants a permanent end to Hamas rockets. Neither side seems likely to yield to the other's demands. In Gaza City, Connor Powell, Fox News.
Another commercial plane crash today, this one on a small island in Taiwan. 47 people died and another 11 were hurt after the plane crashed and caught fire while trying to land during a storm. It was Taiwan's first fatal air accident in 12 years. Up next, the latest on what really became of Lois Lerner's missing IRS emails, plus the Senate race here in New Hampshire. First, what some of our Fox affiliates across the country are covering tonight. WJBK covering the trial for a man who shot a woman who knocked on his door. Jurors heard opening statements today about Theodore Wafer, a suburban Detroit man who killed the unarmed woman on his porch. He claimed self-defense. KDVR has a federal judge from Colorado ruling same-sex marriage can continue. The state's attorney general sued earlier this month to stop issuing the licenses, but the judge ruled the state didn't prove that the moves harmed couples or the state. And this is a live look at Cleveland from our affiliate there, Fox 8. They're reporting on NBA superstar LeBron James sending cupcakes to neighbors from where he grew up. There was a media frenzy there when he decided to rejoin the Cavs. A couple of neighbors took to Twitter to post the note and cupcakes James sent them for all the inconvenience. That's tonight's live look outside the Beltway from Special Report, and we're outside the Beltway tonight too. We'll be right back live from Concord, New Hampshire.